Ever wondered how a single invention could accidentally create the modern world? We're not talking about the internet or the smartphone. We're going back, way back, to the mid-15th century, to a German city called Mainz, and to a man named Johannes Gutenberg. His invention, the printing press. But this isn't just a story about printing books. This is the story of how one machine sparked a revolution that completely reshaped human society, laying the groundwork for everything we know today. Before Gutenberg, the world of information was a very different place. Books were incredibly rare and expensive. Each one was painstakingly copied by hand, a process that could take months, even years. Scribes, usually monks in monasteries, would labor over manuscripts, and a single mistake could be duplicated for generations. Knowledge was a luxury item, accessible only to the clergy, royalty, and the extremely wealthy. The vast majority of people were illiterate, living in a world of spoken words and local traditions. Information traveled at the speed of a horse, and ideas were confined by geography. Imagine a world without standardized spelling, where the version of a story you heard depended entirely on who was telling it. That was the world before print. Then, around 1440, Johannes Gutenberg, a goldsmith and inventor, brought together several existing technologies in a stroke of genius. He combined the screw press, used for making wine and pressing paper, with his own groundbreaking innovation, movable type. He created individual metal letters that could be arranged to form words, sentences, and entire pages. Once a page was set, it could be inked and pressed onto paper, producing a perfect copy in minutes. Then, the type could be broken down and reused to create the next page. It sounds simple to us now, but at the time, it was revolutionary. It was the difference between carving a message in stone and sending a text. Gutenberg's most famous work, the Gutenberg Bible, was completed around 1455. About 180 copies were printed, a number that would have been unimaginable just a decade earlier. But here's where the story gets interesting. The real impact wasn't just about making more Bibles. The printing press was an engine of disruption. Suddenly, information could be duplicated quickly, cheaply, and accurately. The monopoly on knowledge held by the elite was shattered. One of the first and most profound effects was on language itself. Before print, dialects and spellings varied wildly from town to town. A book printed in London might be difficult for someone in York to read. Printers, however, wanted to sell their books to the largest possible audience. So, they started to standardize spelling and grammar. The version of English printed in London became the dominant one, simply because it was the most widely circulated. The printing press didn't just reproduce languages, it created standardized national languages, helping to forge a sense of common identity among people who had previously been divided by local dialects. This new flow of information had explosive consequences for religion. In 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther wrote his 95 Theses, criticizing certain practices of the Catholic Church. In an earlier era, his ideas might have remained a local theological dispute. But thanks to the printing press, his writings were copied and distributed across Germany and Europe within weeks. People could read his arguments for themselves, in their own language. This fueled the Protestant Reformation, a movement that split the Church and plunged Europe into a century of religious conflict. It was the first major ideological battle fought with mass-produced pamphlets and books. The printing press had become a weapon in a war of ideas. The revolution didn't stop there. The availability of printed texts spurred an unprecedented surge in literacy. For the first time, learning to read became a practical skill for merchants, artisans, and even some farmers. As more people read, the demand for books on all subjects, science, philosophy, history, and law skyrocketed. This created a virtuous cycle. More readers led to more books, which led to even more readers. Universities flourished, and new ideas could be debated and disseminated with incredible speed. Think about the scientific revolution. Scholars like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton could now publish their findings and have them reviewed and built upon by a community of peers across the continent. A discovery made in Poland could be verified in Italy and expanded upon in England within a matter of years, not centuries. Scientific progress accelerated dramatically because knowledge was no longer locked away in isolated manuscripts. It was a shared, collective endeavor, all made possible by the ability to print and distribute findings widely. This exchange of information laid the foundation for the Enlightenment, the Age of Reason, and the development of modern scientific inquiry. The printing press also transformed politics and society. Rulers could now issue laws and decrees that were uniform across their entire kingdom. Political philosophers could spread radical new ideas about rights, governance, and liberty. The American and French revolutions were deeply influenced by pamphlets and books that argued for the rights of the common person against the power of the monarchy. The press gave a voice to the voiceless and allowed new political movements to organize and rally support on a scale never before seen. It's fascinating to think that Gutenberg's primary goal was likely commercial. He wanted to find a more efficient way to produce books and make a profit. He probably never imagined he was creating a tool that would standardize languages, fracture the Christian church, accelerate science, and empower democratic revolutions. He unleashed the power of mass communication, and in doing so, he accidentally laid the tracks for the modern world. The information age didn't begin with a silicon chip. It began with a piece of metal type, a screw press, and the revolutionary idea that knowledge should, and could, be shared by everyone. So the next time you pick up a book, scroll through a newsfeed, or even watch a video like this one, take a moment to remember Gutenberg. His invention is the distant ancestor of the very screen you're looking at right now. It was the original information explosion, a game changer that proves that sometimes, the most profound changes come not from grand plans, but from a simple, powerful idea. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey back in time as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about the ideas that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what other historical game changers you'd like to explore. See you in the next video.